The session today, it's not about the info card and selecting residents and all that. It's generally about your project, let's say the grant agreement, the payment, the activity report, dissemination, communication, and all that. As we said, of course, always go and check and read the call for Residency Hosts. This is where we have all the information and all the guidelines. But these sessions are a bit of a summary. So here the agenda of the day. I will start with the presentation. We are in the second phase, the next steps regarding the agreement, as I said, your role as a host, the team, any changes that might happen during the residency, agreements that you need to have with your participants, payments, activity report, dissemination. Then we will have a short break, then we go to the Q&A and the optional networking. So this is a reminder from our last session, the 19th of May, that you need to submit your Residency Info Card by the 30th of September and also submit it at least 4 weeks before the start of your residency. We know that some of you already submitted it and we are getting to your to approval of your info cards. So you need to leave time. And another reminder, the matchmaking sessions that in the end will happen the 5th and 10th of June. We didn't need a third session in the end. 2 sessions will be enough. The registrations are closed, but you can still join us to observe and share your information in the Padlet. So for this, send us an email. We will get you in contact with my colleague Katerina, that she's responsible for the logistics of it. So there is still a chance to share if you want to join, but you will not have time in the agenda to present because the program is already closed. So now, once the info card is submitted and approved, this is a reminder for the grant that you, for your legal entity, you are keeping the hosting allowance and the accessibility support if applicable, and then you pay to each resident the travel allowance, the daily allowance, the top-ups, and the accessibility support. Reminders for the info cards. Now, when you submit your info card, it will take some time to approve it, get back to you, and with the approval email, you will receive instructions how to complete your bank details in GAP. Your bank account must be the one of the legal entity, so we do not accept personal bank accounts of the coordinator or of the legal representative. It should be the one of the legal entity. The bank must be based in a credit Europe country, and intermediary banks are not allowed. Then, as soon as we have your bank details, we will proceed to the preparation of your grant agreement. This can take, we say, up to 1 month, but honestly, if we have your bank details, it can even be less, especially if your residency starts early. So do not worry about that. And priority will be given to residencies starting earlier. Then you will have 15 days. You will receive the grant agreement in GAP, so you will receive it automatically there, together with other documents, the logos, we will talk about it. And you will have 15 days to read it carefully, sign, and return via GAP. So you will have there, let's say, a task to upload it in GAP. So you are not sending your grant agreement via email in our residency functional mailbox. It should be in your folder. And the grant agreement must be signed by the legal representative of your organization, the one you already mentioned in your application. So it shouldn't be signed by the hosting coordinator or the mentor or anyone else. That's very important. And also in your bank account details, we also expect that it's the legal representative's name, it's the account holder, let's say, or the responsible for the bank account as well. Now the grant agreement is this contract between your organization and the Goethe-Institut. Among other things, it includes data from your application, from the call. It will mention the duration and not the dates, because the dates we know that you can postpone, you can change, but what is important is the agreed number of days. So we don't include the exact dates there. Details and information about your residents. Who are they, from which countries, what are the specific needs in terms of top-ups. And it will include the total grant amount. If you remember, in the first phase and in the application we had an estimation. Now your final grant amount might be a bit different depending on the needs. And also very important to mention is that in the application we estimated about 600 euro for each artist, 400 euro the travel, and 200 if they take any top-ups. So maybe you will see already it happened with one host that there is a difference and the final amount is a bit less, because there is an estimation just for our monitoring and evaluation officer, just to have an idea if people select top-ups. So all I'm saying is that if you see a small difference there, do not worry, it's not a mistake, it's just a recalculation of the actual need and of the actual grant. Then in the agreement we will also have written your obligations, the requirement for submitting an amendment when this is needed. For example, if your legal representative changes, if you have a change in your staff. For some cases we will need an amendment, or if you change your bank account for the second payment and this kind of stuff. And some clarifications on intellectual property rights and copyrights. So just a heads up what you might see there. And now the payment comes to you, to the legal entity, in 2 installments, in 2 amounts. The first payment will reach you up to 30 days after having your return grant agreement, and it might be that your residency starts before having the payment. We know that this can happen. You will receive the 60% of the hosting, daily and travel allowance, and if applicable, 60% of the accessibility support if you choose that. And then the final payment, as we call it, the balance payment, reaches you 30 days after we reviewed and approved your activity report at the very end. Now, we shared again this information, maybe there is always some repetition, but yeah, it's good to remind you what we are expecting from you. It's of course to provide safe and appropriate accommodation to the residents, adequate rooms, workplaces, material if needed, relevant equipment and available staff. We know that we are providing this funding and then we give the responsibility and the trust to you to welcome the artist and give them a good experience, including mentorship activities. You must have, as we said, on site for the agreed duration at least 1 mentor. And if you have to pay any fees, this can be taken from the hosting allowance, or it's really up to you if you pay them how much or not and when. And as we said, the mentor can also be you, the coordinators or the staff of the legal entity. Then when it comes to contacting our team, you must always contact us before doing any changes. If you have a dropout, if someone is leaving earlier, if there is any change, please keep the communication with us. Always in your GAP application in the emails. And now I know that you have the application and the reference number of the application, and then with the Residency Info Card, you have another reference number. So I would kindly ask you, when you submit the Residency Info Card, then we continue the communication there. Because sometimes it gets that people post in both, let's say, applications, but as soon as you are done with your original application and you submit your Residency Info Card, this is, let's say, the reference number that is important and the communication that we keep. I know that it might sound complicated, but just to keep all the communication from the moment we sign in one application. And then another thing that we will talk about today is the host-resident agreements. These are the contracts that you will need to have with your residents just to see my time. The contract that you will have with your invited residents, it's mandatory to have an agreement with each resident where you include, similarly to the contract that we have with you, you need to have a similar, let's say, contract with them. This year we decided to provide you a template because we know that some of you might not have the experience or the documents or the legal officers, of course, and all that. Of course, we don't expect that this contract is something long. Not really. It can be something 2-3 pages, and we can provide you a template. And you are in general responsible for all the administration and reporting back to us. Now, when it comes to changes during the implementation, if you remember in the previous session, the 19th of May, we talked a bit about changes between your application and the Residency Info Card. Maybe a change of days, if I have one less participant, and all that. But now what happens during the implementation? When you submitted the card, you received your grant agreement. We, of course, allow some changes. We know that we are humans and it might be, but it must be always communicated to us, and an amendment might be needed. Changes that do not have impact on your budget is if you change the location, if something comes up with accommodation or with your workspaces and you need to communicate that, yeah, you need to move to another space and all that, or if you have a change in your team, the hosting coordinator, if you have a new person joining, their email needs to be communicated with us, so you do the proper handover, or if the legal representative changes there, we need to have an amendment, because it's also the person signing the grant agreement. So all this is possible without, of course, budget impact. What comes with grant reduction is if a resident drop out. So if now we sign the agreement, your residency starts in January, and in the end one person decided not to join you, then this is fine, but it means that this grant will be deducted. So they are travel allowance and daily allowance and the hosting allowance to the host for this person. So the €50 for the number of days for this resident. And then in the duration, if in the end you have less days, or if some participants leave earlier, for example, I'm doing a residency for 5 artists for 30 days and 2 people leave 10 days earlier for whatever reason, this should be communicated to us, and this amount for only these people will be deducted in the end. I think it's quite logical. Also, it happened before that host asked us if they can extend the duration, if the artist can remain, if a further collaboration comes up or another project. Yeah, this is up to you, but the grant, I mean, we are fine with that, of course, but the grant will remain the same in this case. Now, when it comes to the host-resident agreements, as I briefly explained before, you need to have this agreement with each resident. There you define the roles and responsibilities of both parties, and these agreements, among others, must include where the funding comes from. So there should be a funding visibility, clearly mentioned that it's financially supported from Culture Among Zero project, the European Union and the Goethe-Institut. You must clearly indicate the duration and time spent in the residency, similarly to the duration in your grant agreement. You should include the budget table of this artist, so your contracts will be a bit different then, right? If you give a contract to Maria, it will be her specific top-ups and grant. Another resident might have less amount, so it should be individualized. And then also mention how you agree to pay, if it's bank transfer, if it's cash, if it's weekly, etc. And as I said, we provide you with a template together with your grant agreement. You will receive this template if you wish to use that. I stay here a bit more. Okay, and I think this PDF was already sent to you in the recording, so if you didn't have time for all the notes, no worries. Then, another document that will be sent to you with the grant agreement is the template for the attendance certificate. This is a one-page document, something pretty simple, to be honest. It's just a certificate to prove the actual presence of each resident from arrival until their departure. So this certificate should include the exact dates. So exact days of presence. So back in my example, if I had 5 residents for 30 days and 2 people decide to leave 10 days earlier, in the attendance certificate you include the exact that they stayed 20 days in your residency, or 22. Because this is important for the balance payment calculation, as I said. If people left earlier, this exact amount will be deducted for your balance payment. And for this we give you a template which is mandatory to use, and we think it makes also your life easier. It is ready-made, just some things to fill, the name, the days, and just to sign it. And you send it we will send it to you, as I said, with the grant agreement. And this needs to be signed by each resident. So if you had 5 residents, you will at the end have 5 attendance certificates that you will upload in your activity report. And I think this is also sometimes needed from the residents as a certificate, as a proof that they joined this residency. So it somehow serves purposes for budget, for report, and also for general, let's say, proof. Now when it comes to payments to your residents, as we said, you are responsible to pay them the correct amount and the exact amount of the agreement. It can be via bank transfer or in cash. You can pay all at once or divide it into tranches, monthly, weekly. Maybe with each resident you have a different agreement. Maybe one person wants to have it all, I don't know, via bank transfer. Maybe one person prefers if it's weekly cash. I mean, you see with them what is your capacity, what is your agreement. It's really up to you and them how you do it, and it doesn't have to be the same for everyone, I mean. And anyway, this is mentioned in each agreement host resident with each person. And then very important is that each person should receive the whole amount. So if my ticket is 250, the rest 150 should be given to me. Like we do not allow, we know that in some Erasmus projects, let's say, this is possible, that then the rest of the money are put, let's say, in a pot, and maybe you pay some extra expenses. But in our project we say that the rule is that people should receive the whole amount, the fixed amount, regardless exact and actual costs. And again, a reminder of something that we said before, that you cannot charge them fees for registration or any other funded services that we already support. And at the end of the residency, you will need to submit the activity report. This will be again via GAP. I mean, you will see it similarly to the Residency Info Card. You will have a task in GAP. I mean, by then you will be more familiar with GAP. And this is again a form where you answer some questions. It's a general feedback to us. You share some results about the achievements, the learnings, but there are no evaluations in this moment. We don't evaluate at the very end, and it doesn't mean that we need to see let's say an actual result or something produced by you. This is more just for our information, let's say, just to see what happened in your residency. And you need to upload some documents. You have 30 days after the end of the residency to submit it. So you have 1 month to collect everything, but this form will already be open in GAP from the beginning. So maybe during the residency you want to complete it, go back there, so you don't have all this work at the end. As I said, this will be online, and what you need to provide us is the proof of transportation for the one way, because as we said, people might leave later, people might stay at your country, work with you, many possibilities. So we just need the one-way ticket to you as a proof of their journey from their place of residence. This can be the boarding pass, the booking confirmation, something that proves that, or the bus tickets. We need the signed attendance certificate for each resident. We need the signed host-resident agreement for each resident. Proof of top-ups. For example, you requested a visa top-up. We need to have the receipt of the expense, of the payment of this, let's say, request. Or for the family top-up, I think we request the ID or a document proving the number of children that you requested for the top-up. And then we need 5 files, pictures proving and somehow showing a bit your work, from a presentation, generally from your residency. Yeah, and as I said here, the proofs of top-ups. I mentioned the example of the visa top-up. If it's a proof of payment, a stamped visa, something showing that this top-up was used. For the family top-up, an official document for the children under 18. And there we need 1 document per child, because I remind you it's €200 the top-up, the family top-up per child. And then for the green mobility and the OCT, the proof is already the ticket, if it's indeed a train, if it's not, etc. Now, if a resident requested a green top-up and then in the end they didn't travel green, then it's fine, it can happen, but this will be deducted in the balance payment. And then when you pay them, if I was joining you and I said I will come by train, but in the end I take a plane, then you know that the €400 green top-up will be deducted from my amount. It influences, of course, the payment of the budget of the resident, not you. When it comes to accessibility support, we already mentioned that we provide support for professional service or for non-professional support. This will be discussed with our team in case you do have a person joining you with with a disability and with accessibility needs. This can be discussed with our team, and then at the end you need to provide an invoice of the total cost, or if it's a non-professional support, a self-declaration confirming that this person joined the residency and provided this support. But this can be more discussed with our team in this specific case. We know it's not a lot, but it happens, and we also encourage you to include people with disabilities. Now, when it comes to disseminating your residency, this is all I have here. If you use pictures in your activity report or post them on social media, respect the privacy rights of everyone. This is what we say, that you need to have the explicit consent of your residents. If you take pictures, if you take videos, if you post them on social media, just make sure to have this, let's say, agreement with them beforehand, because we, as our project and Goethe, we are not responsible for them. We don't have a legally binded relation with your residents. This is really your responsibility, and to have these agreements with them. And then on social media, you can always tag us, Culture Moves Europe, on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, everywhere. Use the hashtag so we can repost your post. Maybe now if you open a call or if you share some results, make sure to include the hashtags so we can repost. And then the logos, as you see, we have them here as well. The logo of the European Union, funded by the European Union and the Goethe-Institut, must be included in any, let's say, if you produce the guide, if you produce a program, a poster, a publication. I suppose, probably most of you are familiar with this rule. No need to add them in stories and in every post, but for more, let's say, official publications and disseminating material, this is important to include it. And they will, the logos will also be sent to you with the grant agreement. So with the grant agreement, you receive an email with all the, let's say, all the needed documents. And then, as we said, we will always credit the name with the name of people with the rights of the visual material. So if you produce a video or something, we will take the consent from you to share it. We will ask that in the activity report if we want to share a video from your site, a picture, or use that in our, let's say, report or our dissemination. We will always contact you and have your, let's say, your consent. And then in the activity report, we might ask for some testimonies or to share something written, and this could be used from our social media team or in an event. And also some hosts might be contacted to take part in events. This means it can be an online event, sometimes with the Creative Europe desks, if they want to share experience from a funded organization, to share your experience, or let's say your time with Culture Moves Europe and your project. We also have, we are also now in the process of producing some videos. I think already some hosts were contacted, depending the country, the need. So yeah, just have this in mind. And somewhere here I'm closing this presentation. When it comes to contacting us, it will be mainly me. Already with some of you I was in contact, and another colleague. You can do it via GAP, as we said, where we will send you the grant agreement, and in the Residency Info Card application, all communication must be kept there, so we keep a track. So avoid using the general functional mailbox, but if you have any technical issue with GAP or any other questions, let's say not so relevant with the grant agreement and not so official, you can send us in culturemoveseurope.residency@goethe.de. So in GAP we keep more the amendments, the grant agreement, the official changes, etc. But if you have a quick question or something is wrong with your GAP or anything, you can also reach us in our mailbox.